I was sitting at a small oceanside restaurant in San Diego on a warm spring evening, talking with a woman who made me feel comfortable for the first time in years. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from a number I had deleted from contacts, but still recognized instantly. Jessica, my ex-wife. The message read, "Sebastian, we need to talk urgently. It is important." I looked across the table at Natalie, Jessica's younger sister, and smiled. I typed back, "Not now. I am out with your sister." I hit send. A year ago, I never thought I would be here with Natalie calm enough to refuse Jessica like that. Before I tell you how I got here, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. If you have ever dealt with an ex who thought they could just walk back into your life on their terms, hit that like button. And subscribe, because this story gets a whole lot more interesting than just one text message. Let me take you back to where it all started to fall apart. I met Jessica 5 years before that text at a marketing conference in Los Angeles. She was the kind of woman who commanded attention the moment she walked into a room. Dark hair that fell past her shoulders, always dressed in sharp blazers and heels that clicked with confidence on hardwood floors. She worked in advertising, closing deals worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, speaking with clients like she owned every conversation. I was a software engineer, more comfortable behind a screen than in a crowded conference hall. We were opposites in almost every way, but somehow we worked. At least I thought we did. Jessica handled the social side of our life, while I managed the practical details. She charmed our friends at dinner parties, while I made sure the bills were paid and the house was in order. After 2 years of dating, we got married at a small vineyard in Napa Valley. It was perfect, simple, intimate. Everything I wanted. The first 2 years of marriage were stable. I worked remotely as a software developer for a tech company in Seattle, which gave me flexibility. Jessica traveled constantly for her job, sometimes gone 3 or 4 days a week. When she got promoted to senior account director, we moved to Portland, so she could be closer to her main office. I agreed without hesitation. I could work from anywhere, and I wanted to support her career. That was when Natalie started visiting us more often. Jessica's younger sister was 3 years her junior and completely different in temperament. Where Jessica was loud and assertive, Natalie was quiet and thoughtful. She taught elementary school and seemed genuinely content with her life, even though Jessica often made snide remarks about Natalie's small-town existence. Natalie would come to Portland every few months, staying in our guest room for a weekend. I always enjoyed her visits. Natalie asked me about my work, about the projects I was building, about the books I was reading. She listened when I talked something Jessica had stopped doing somewhere along the way, but I never thought anything of it beyond the fact that Natalie was easy to talk to. She was family, nothing more. After 3 years of marriage, the cracks started showing. Jessica was gone more than she was home. When she did come back on weekends, she was exhausted, irritable, unwilling to engage. I felt like a roommate in my own marriage, not a husband. I tried to connect with her to recreate the intimacy we once had, but every attempt was met with the same response. "I am too tired, Sebastian. Work has been insane." Our third anniversary hit me harder than I expected. I spent the entire afternoon preparing a special dinner. I bought a ribeye steak, her favorite, and paired it with a bottle of red wine I had been saving. I set candles on the table and put on the jazz music she used to love. When she finally walked through the door at 9:30, 2 hours late, she looked at the table and said, "Oh, I forgot. I am sorry, babe. Work has been crazy. We can celebrate this weekend." That weekend never came. She took on an emergency project and spent Saturday and Sunday locked in the home office, barely speaking to me. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the cold steak I had reheated and the half-empty wine bottle. I wondered if I even mattered to her anymore. I tried talking to her about how lonely I felt, how disconnected we had become. Her response was defensive, almost accusatory. "You work from home, Sebastian. You do not understand what it is like out there. I am under constant pressure, and you are here asking me to focus on your feelings." The words stung more than I wanted to admit. She made it sound like my work did not matter, like my career was less important because I did not wear a suit or sit in an office tower. From that point on, we drifted further apart. I buried myself in coding projects, taking on freelance work to fill the empty hours. Jessica threw herself even deeper into her career, coming home later and later. We slept in the same bed, but lived separate lives. Some nights I would lie awake next to her, wondering if our marriage could be saved or if we were just too broken to fix. But the worst was still ahead. I had no idea how much worse things were about to get. It started on a Friday night in early autumn. Jessica told me she was flying to Denver for a client pitch and would be back Sunday evening. I decided to clean out our bedroom closet, something I had been putting off for months. While sorting through a pile of bags near the back of the closet, I found a hotel receipt tucked into the front pocket of her work tote. The receipt was not from Denver. It was from Seattle, a suite at a high-end downtown hotel. 2 nights. The date was from the previous week. My stomach tightened as I stared at the paper. Why would Jessica lie about where she was going? I sat on the floor, holding the receipt, my mind racing through possible explanations. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she had a last-minute meeting in Seattle and forgot to mention it. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I went to the home computer we shared and opened her work email calendar. There were no meetings scheduled in Seattle. No client calls. Nothing. The knot in my stomach pulled tighter. I did not confront her immediately. I needed to be sure. I needed proof. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew heavier with every passing hour. 2 weeks later, Jessica told me she was flying to San Francisco for another pitch. I could not take the uncertainty anymore. I knew her phone passcode. We had always been open about our devices, or so I thought. While she was in the shower the night before her trip, I unlocked her phone and opened her messages. I found a conversation thread with someone named Marcus. At first glance, the name meant nothing to me. But as I scrolled through the messages, my hands started shaking. These were not work emails. They were intimate, affectionate, filled with the kind of language that made my chest feel like it was caving in. One message from Marcus read, "I cannot wait to see you this weekend. I have missed you." Jessica had replied, "Me too. Sebastian suspects nothing. He is too buried in his work." Another message from a week earlier, Marcus asking, "When are you going to tell him?" Jessica responding, "Soon. I just need the right time." I sat in the dark hallway outside our bedroom, the phone still in my hand, reading through months of conversations. Jessica had been seeing Marcus for at least 6 months. All those work trips, all those late nights, all those times she told me she was too exhausted to talk. She had been lying to me every single day. The worst part was not even the betrayal itself. It was the way she talked about me. Sebastian suspects nothing. He is too buried in his work. She saw me as oblivious, too absorbed in my own life to notice what was happening. She saw me as a fool. I printed out the messages. I needed physical proof, something I could hold in my hands to remind myself that this was real, that I was not imagining it. When Jessica came home the next evening, I was waiting for her in the kitchen. The printed pages were spread across the table. She walked in, saw the papers, and her face went pale. "How long, Jessica?" My voice was shaking, but I kept it steady. "How long have you been lying to me?" She stood there for a long moment, staring at the evidence in front of her. Then she sighed, not with regret, but with resignation. "I did not want you to find out like this. That is all you have to say." I felt my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You did not want me to find out. Sebastian, we have not been happy for a long time." She said, her tone almost matter-of-fact. "You know that. So that gives you the right to cheat?" I could barely get the words out. "To lie every single day." She looked at me with something close to pity, And that was worse than anger. I fell out of love with you. Marcus understands me. He is ambitious driven. He gets my world. I wanted her to apologize. I wanted her to show some remorse, some sign that she understood what she had done. But there was none. Instead, she turned it back on me. She said I was comfortable with mediocrity, that I lacked ambition, that I was content to stay in my little bubble while she reached for something greater. You are comfortable being mediocre, she said. I am not. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. The woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, did not just betray me. She looked down on me. She saw me as less than, as not enough. Jessica told me she was moving out that night. She would stay with Marcus. She would file for divorce. She did not apologize. She did not look back. She packed a bag, walked out the door, and left me sitting alone in the home we had shared. That night was the loneliest of my life. I sat in the dark living room, listening to the silence, wondering how everything had fallen apart so completely. But I had no idea that the divorce process would be even more brutal than the betrayal itself. Jessica hired an aggressive lawyer who fought for everything. She wanted the house in Portland, even though both our names were on the deed. She wanted a larger share of our savings. She wanted things that were not hers to take. My lawyer advised me to fight back to stand my ground, but I was exhausted. I did not have the energy to battle her anymore. I just wanted it to be over. We settled after 8 months of back and forth. Jessica kept the house. I took a small settlement and walked away. I moved to Seattle, rented a small apartment near the waterfront, and tried to rebuild my life from scratch. Those 8 months were hell. I lost 12 pounds. I stopped sleeping through the night. I worked like a machine, coding for 12-14 hours a day, not because I wanted to, but because I needed something to focus on, other than the wreckage of my marriage. My family and friends were worried. They called, texted, tried to get me to open up. But I shut everyone out. I did not want to talk about it. I did not want to relive the pain. I just wanted to move forward, even if I had no idea where forward was. The day the divorce was finalized, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I was free, but I did not know what to do with that freedom. I was starting over at 30, alone in a new city, with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. 3 months after the divorce, my phone rang one evening. It was a number I did not recognize. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick up. The voice on the other end was tentative, apologetic. It was Natalie. "Sebastian," she said softly. "I heard about the divorce. I am so sorry." I was surprised. Our families had cut contact after the split. I assumed Natalie would side with her sister, that I would never hear from her again. "I did not know about the affair until after everything was finalized," Natalie continued. "Jessica told everyone it was just that you two were not compatible. But I overheard her on the phone with Marcus a few weeks ago. I know what really happened. And I am so sorry." Her voice cracked, and I realized she was genuinely upset. "You do not owe me anything, Natalie," I said. "It is not your fault." "I know," she replied, "but I wanted you to know that I never agreed with how she treated you. Even before all of this, I always thought you deserved better." We talked for 2 hours that night. I told her everything. The loneliness, the betrayal, the brutal divorce process. Natalie listened without judgment, without trying to defend her sister. She just listened. And for the first time in months, I felt like someone actually cared. Before we hung up, Natalie suggested we meet for coffee the following week. "Just to talk," she said. "If you want to, I mean. No pressure." I agreed. I did not think much of it. I just needed a friend. We met at a small cafe near Pike Place Market. Natalie looked different than I remembered, more confident, more relaxed. We talked for hours about everything except Jessica. Work, hobbies, books, travel. I found myself laughing more than I had in months. Natalie was easy to be around. She asked questions about my feelings, not just my accomplishments. She shared stories about her students, her love for teaching the small joys she found in everyday life. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was just herself. We started meeting once a week, then twice. We went on hikes through the Cascade foothills, watched old movies at the Independent Theater downtown, cooked dinners together at my tiny apartment. I felt lighter around her, comfortable, safe. And slowly, I began to realize that what I was feeling was not just friendship. 2 months after that first coffee, we were sitting by the fireplace in my living room on a cold December evening. Natalie turned to me, her voice quiet. "Sebastian, I have to tell you something. I always thought my sister did not deserve you. From the first time I met you." I looked at her surprised. But in that moment I realized I felt the same way about her. I had been falling for Natalie without even knowing it. We started dating officially after that night. Not to get back at Jessica. Not out of revenge. But because we genuinely cared for each other. Because Natalie saw me for who I was, and loved me anyway. She loved my quiet mornings, my nerdy obsession with coding projects, my preference for small gatherings over big parties. She did not try to change me. She did not compare me to some impossible standard. She just loved me. And I loved her in return. We kept the relationship private at first. We both knew it would cause a scandal if Jessica or their family found out. But after 7 months together, we were solid, real. We went on a weekend trip to San Diego, staying at a bed and breakfast near the coast. On our last night, we went to dinner at a quiet restaurant overlooking the water. That was when my phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Sebastian, we need to talk urgently. It is important." I looked at Natalie and smiled. She raised an eyebrow. "My sister." "Yeah," I said. "She says it is urgent." Natalie tilted her head. "What does she want?" "I do not know," I replied. "And I do not care." I typed out my response, "Not now. I am out with your sister." I hit send. Natalie's eyes widened. "You just told her the truth." "It is time," I said. "I am not afraid of her anymore. And I do not owe her anything." A wave of relief washed over me. I was not the victim anymore. I was not the man who had been betrayed and broken. I was someone who had rebuilt his life. Someone who had found real love. Someone who was finally in control of his own story. The fallout came fast. Jessica called and texted nonstop. At first, she was furious. "How dare you date my sister? This is disgusting," she wrote. "You are doing this to hurt me." I replied only once. "Jessica, I moved on. What you did hurt me, but I am not doing this to hurt you. Natalie and I genuinely care for each other. Please respect that." Jessica did not respect it. She called Natalie, screaming at her, accusing her of betrayal. But Natalie stood her ground. "You gave up on him," Natalie said calmly. "You do not get to decide who he is happy with." Jessica threatened to cut Natalie out of her life. Natalie was sad, but she did not waver. "I do not want to lose you," she told her sister. "But I cannot lose him either." I held Natalie that night, knowing we had weathered the storm together. We decided to go public with our relationship, telling our families the truth. It was shocking at first, but Natalie's parents eventually accepted us when they saw how happy we were. As for Jessica, I heard through mutual friends that she and Marcus broke up a few months later. Their relationship built on lies and betrayal did not last. I did not feel satisfied hearing that. I just did not care anymore. Looking back now, those 2 years feel like a lifetime. I went from a man shattered by divorce to someone who found genuine happiness with Natalie. But the road to healing was not easy. Those first months in Seattle were brutal. I would lie awake at night, replaying every conversation with Jessica, every moment I missed the signs, every time she made me feel like I was not enough. Her words echoed in my mind. You are comfortable being mediocre. But slowly, I learned to heal. I joined a running club and made new friends. I started cooking something I had always wanted to learn, but never had time for. I read books on self-growth and went to therapy for 3 months. My therapist helped me understand that Jessica's betrayal was not my fault. Her choices were hers alone. I was not mediocre. I was not lacking. I was just myself, and that was enough. My career flourished too. I accepted a lead developer position at a promising startup. The project I worked on gained recognition and success. I realized I was not without ambition. I simply did not need to shout about my achievements to feel validated. Old friends came back into my life. My relationship with my family grew stronger. And most importantly, there was Natalie. The difference between my relationship with Jessica and my relationship with Natalie was night and day. With Jessica, I always felt like I was trying to prove my worth, trying to measure up to some invisible standard. With Natalie, I was simply accepted. She did not ask me to change. She loved my engineering work, my quiet nature, my preference for deep conversations over small talk. We built a relationship based on respect, real communication, mutual support, and joy in the simplest moments. Natalie taught me that love is not about grand gestures or proving yourself. Love is about having someone beside you on ordinary days, someone who sees you at your worst and stays anyway. A year after that text from Jessica, I proposed to Natalie. We were walking on a quiet beach in Oregon, a place we visited often. It was not elaborate or showy. Just me, her, and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes, tears streaming down her face. We got married 6 months later. It was a small ceremony, with close family and friends. Jessica was not invited. That was Natalie's decision, not mine. She wanted our day to be about us, about the life we were building together, not about the past. I learned so much through this journey. I learned that betrayal does not define you. Jessica's affair did not make me less valuable or less worthy of love. I learned that pain can be a path to growth. If I had not gone through that divorce, I never would have found what real love looks like. I learned that forgiveness does not mean forgetting. I forgave Jessica, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved to be free from the weight of anger and resentment. I learned that happiness is a choice. After the divorce, I could have chosen to stay stuck in bitterness and pain. Instead, I chose to heal, to grow, to open my heart again. I learned to let go of resentment. I do not hate Jessica anymore. I do not even think about her most days. She showed me what I did not want in a relationship, and in a strange way, that clarity was a gift. Most of all, I learned about inner freedom. When I stopped caring about what Jessica thought of me, when I stopped needing her validation, I became truly free. Today, Natalie and I live in a small house just outside Seattle. Our life is simple, but it is full of love. Every now and then, I look back at that text from Jessica. We need to talk urgently. I smile when I think about it now, not with bitterness, but with gratitude. That message reminded me of how far I had come. From a broken man to someone who stood up and chose his own happiness. Sometimes the best revenge is not revenge at all. It is building a life so good, so genuine, that the past becomes nothing but a distant memory. And that text from Jessica, it was the final reminder that I did not need her validation anymore. I had found something better. I had found myself. If you are going through something similar, remember this. The person who broke you does not get to decide your worth. You do. And sometimes the greatest love story is not the one that lasted. It is the one that taught you what real love actually looks like. Have you ever had to choose between holding on to anger or choosing peace? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your story. If this resonated with you, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And do not forget to subscribe for more real stories about overcoming life's toughest challenges. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how broken you feel right now, you have the strength to rebuild. Stay strong, and remember your best days are still ahead of you.